Hello. Today we're going to cover example assignment 6.1, cash rental rate estimator. Hopefully you have this assignment or blank worksheet in your file and you can go ahead and take it out and work along as I go through the material here. And what we're going to do is in this example, the Johnsons rent 80 acres from an out-of-state landlord. The out-of-state landlord is asking $250 per tillable acre for the next year, which you heard was the going rate in his county. Is that a reasonable rate? Can the Johnsons afford to pay that much? The land is valued at $4,500 an acre. So here are the Johnsons' estimates of their yields and production cost. 180 bushel per acre corn, 60 bushel per acre soybeans. An expected selling price of corn of $4.50 and soybeans of $10. For a gross income then of $810 and a gross income of soybeans of $600. Seed, fertilizer, and pesticide costs are, as you can see, insurance, machinery, drying, machinery, fixed costs, labor, for our total cost without land of $445 and $274. So below we're going to figure out our estimates of actual rental rates, and then we can go from there and see if they are in fact reasonable. So what we do, and this material, by the way, can be found in the example, the publication that's attached to your Dropbox folder will help you with this assignment. And it looks like this, computing a cropland cash rental rate, and it goes through these different approaches, and it can be very helpful to determine actual rental rates. So let's go through these examples together. Share of gross income. We use this example of 35% of gross income for corn and 45% for soybeans. So what you simply do there is take 35% of the gross income. For corn it was $810. So 35% of $810 is $283.50. Okay, we'll take 45% of our soybean gross income of $600, and that gives us a $270 cash rental rate. For yield potential, this is an arbitrary number, but this would be negotiated with your individual landlord. But in this particular case, we just use a yield potential average of $1.09 for corn and $3.61 for soybeans. That could be an average like for various other farms that you rent. You could just simply take the cash rent that you're paying and divide that by your average yield, and that would give you your cost per bushel of corn or soybeans. So if we did that on our other acres, we found that we paid an average rent of $1.09 per bushel of corn. In this case, then we could just simply take $1.09 times 180 bushels of corn. Soybeans is always going to be quite a bit higher because obviously our yield is a lot lower, but we have a average cost per bushel of soybeans of $3.61. So you can see that we have a yield expense of $216.60. CSR index, again, you would find that by average farms in the area or other farms that you rent. In this example, we have a $2 per CSR point. That would be pretty cheap actually by today's standards, but if that was the case, CSR, again, corn suitability rating, and that's what we use in Iowa to get an index of the productivity of soils. Different states, Minnesota has a different, similar index, but a little bit different name. But anyway, for our example, we'll use a CSR of 75 of this particular farm and an average rent of $2 per CSR point. That would give us a rent of $150 per acre. Percent of land value. That's a really interesting, that would make a lot of sense for an investor. If you had land and you thought it was worth $4,500 an acre and you wanted a 5% return, Pretty simple. You just take the $4,500 an acre land value times 5%. In this particular case, 5% of 4,500 is $225. Tenant's residual is a little bit different. Tenant's residual is where we are going to take all of our costs out of the expected gross income, and what's left over is what we're available to use for rent. Now, in this case, we've paid ourselves for machinery, we've paid ourselves labor. So what we have left over would go to the landlord. Obviously, this is a very aggressive type of rent structure, a rent formula, but nonetheless, it is one that could be used. At least in this example, you are paying yourself labor value, you are paying yourself your machinery cost. And sometimes you'll see some crazy cash rents out there. They don't even do that. So, but in this case, we took the tenant's residual by taking the $810 gross income from corn and subtracting all costs except rent, the $445 an acre, and that gives us a tenant's residual on corn of $365 an acre. We do the same thing on soybeans. Gross income of $600. We subtract the total cost except rent of $274. That leaves us a residual or leftover of $326 an acre. Crop share. A crop share equivalent. In the example, the typical crop share agreement, the landlord provides the land, the tenant provides the machinery and labor, and they split the costs of seed, fertilizer, herbicide, insurance, drying. For soybeans, it'd be seed, fertilizer, herbicide, insurance. And in exchange, the landlord receives half of the crop. So, how we compute this is the landlord's share of the corn crop, for example, 180 bushels of corn times $4.50 a bushel times 50 cents is $405. They paid, this is for corn again, I should color code these so they're easier to understand. The corn crop, 50% of that goes to the landlord. That's $405 would be their income. But the landlord also pays $170.50 for their share of the seed, fertilizer, insurance, drying. After we take their income minus their expense, they're left with $234.50. That would be their share. That's what we're paying them for rent, in other words. They're getting half our crop, but yes, they're helping to pay for it too. So total out of pocket, $234.50. On the soybeans, their share of their crop would be $300 of gross income. 60 bushels times $10 times 50 cents, that'd be a $300 gross income. Plus, subtract their share of the cost of seed, fertilizer, herbicide, insurance. That would be $95. We'd add up the seed, fertilizer, insurance, then divide by 2 or times 50 cents to get a $95 cost there. So their income minus their expense is what they would in effect receive for their land or their rent payment. In this case, it would be $205. Okay, so what's the weighted average of all approaches? Well, we're going to add up all of the rents for corn, divide by 6 to get an average for the corn. We're going to do the same thing on their soybeans, add up the 6 different rents, divide by 6. And you see we have a slightly lower rent for soybean and a slightly higher for corn. We average the two of those to get an overall average of $237.19. So the last question is $250 a reasonable amount? Well, I think most of us would agree that $250 is fairly reasonable when we find that by our computations, the average would be $237.19. $237.19 is 95% of $250. So it's within 5% of what is being asked for rent. Um, if you wanted to argue that we could lower that a little bit to say 240, that's fine. Anyway, hopefully this made sense to you. Now you should be able to do assignment 6.1. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop me an email, give me a call, or stop by my office, and I'll do my very best to help you out with any questions that you have. Thanks for your attention, and good luck.